Welcome back. So, the title of this mini lecture is Early Middle Ages. Let's get into it. All right, first off, know our terms. So, a phrase like early Middle Ages is really broad. And for many scholars, over a very long period of time, defining the terms and time frame of this has been kind of really broad. So, for a long time, it was considered in common usage and acceptability to use the term Dark Ages. And broadly speaking, this was a term that kind of signified the collapse of the Western Roman Empire and that Roman world. And this would have broadly been looked at as ending around just after 476 CE, right around 500, and going up until about 800 or so, the crowning of Charlemagne as the emperor of the Holy Roman world, and his empire. Since then, historians have, in recent years, argued that that term is a bit is controversial, that it is not acceptable for usage, and what would be more common among scholars is going to be a term like early Middle Ages, because a term like Dark Ages can be loaded with value judgments placed on the communities and peoples that would have endured and lived at that time. And so early Middle Ages, again, similar in terms of timing, but extending the time frames a bit. So some historians put this in late 200s CE, others around 500, going up to about 1,000 or so. Again, some look at it in varying ways, but broadly, we're looking at least at about a 500-year stretch of time in the later years of the Western Roman Empire, and looking through until by about 1,000 CE or so. So certainly, then I think, if anything, we can agree that the collapse of the Western Roman political state by the time you get into the 5th century really is going to be a very, very, very significant aspect of understanding this era, right? The post-Roman world is an incredibly complex one that for many who endured it, it will be a particularly brutal time, especially if you're living in modern Italy in the 5th century, and the many, many, many attacks that are occurring against Rome itself and other cities as well. It is a brutal era. But again, with the last Western Roman leader deposed by the 470s, it is crucial to understand that the new kingdoms that are going to supplant Roman political authority in this way are one, signifying certainly a transition, and also a clear change for those who are living in what had been the Roman state. Now, that change will take some time, certainly, and the writings that we have of the 5th century and into the 6th century, depending on who the person was, there really could have been also a collective sense that the world itself was coming to an end, not necessarily that their world was coming to an end, that this was a very, very difficult time. And there is, of course, we should acknowledge an entire body of scholarship on the ending years of the Roman world, the Western Roman world, what that meant, what we should understand about it, what factors contributed to it occurring, from Edward Gibbons's Decline and Fall work in the 18th century, which is a very, very, very significant text on this, but also has a lot of problems, as well, to more recent scholarship in the 21st century. So certainly the collapse of Rome, right, is going to be central here. Again, looking at the idea of what Christopher Wickham does in a lot of his scholarship of the idea of understanding inheritors to the post-Roman world. So certainly you've got, we have our Roman collapse, right? We have that. We have the many peoples that are going to be negotiating for power in these new kingdoms and these new political entities in the 6th century and in the 7th century. Now, there had been, of course, discriminatory terms that were often used to describe many of these Germanic and other peoples, but it's important that we, of course, work against the use of those kinds of discriminatory terms. But certainly, the political actors that are going to supplant Roman power are central for us to understand. In terms of other inheritors with the post-Roman world, certainly the role of religion is going to be really, really central, not only in the former Western Roman Empire in terms of the growth of the Christian church, certainly by the 4th, 5th, and 6th centuries, but by the time you get into the 7th and 8th centuries, you're also in other parts of the post-Roman world and the Byzantine world and other areas going to see the growth, certainly of the Islamic faith community, right? So that's also going to be an inheritor here that it's important for us to acknowledge. In terms of political actors or political states that are good for us to take note of, certainly the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine world is central here. The role of Emperor Justinian cannot be understated, and the efforts in the 6th century to expand and reassert authority in modern Italy, and then the eventual difficulties that the Byzantine world are going to have on holding on to those positions is going to become a part of this story as well. Thank you very much.